Hey, Trigger Happy fam, we are back. We are still rocking in season 4, and like Leisha always says, we are keeping these dynamic, amazing, and the last few have been really fine. Like just extra cute, beautiful women that we just surround ourselves with. So today we have someone that I've heard so much about, and I'm so excited to finally meet her. Leisha's bringing all her great friends on the podcast, y'all. And I'm here for it. I am here for it, to meet them in person finally, especially in this way. So we have wellness coach, organizational consultant, wife, mom, all the things on our show today. Please welcome Amber. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here with you all.
We're happy to have you. Look at just,
gorgeous. I've been watching and I'm like, I want my seat on the couch.
Oh, here you are. Yes, live. And we're so happy we could do this with you in person.
Yes. It's definitely a different
There were
energy
some
in
people
person.
she was like, nah, we need to see her live in person. Yeah, so I'm happy that you were able to make the time for us. Thank you.
This is a treat.
Thank you.
So obviously I just gave you that intro of those titles, but we like to start off our podcast because we deal with so many multi-hyphenate people who just do so much in this world and show up in so many ways. It's easy sometimes to kind of get lost in all the titles and the accolades. So we like to ask our guests, who do you say that you are? Outside of all those wonderful things that you do, who is Amber? If you have to ask, if you have to answer that and describe yourself to someone, who are you?
I love that question. But the funny thing is that I don't love labels. So that is why I kind of play around with them. I'm fluid in my labels. I don't like to put myself in a box ever. So I think that if I answer that question like who I am, it's going to get down more to the core of like my values than like the label that I have. So I'm someone who values engaging conversations. I'm someone who values pouring into people. I'm someone who values, I feel like my purpose is to be here and to help uplift people. I'm a champion of the underdog. So I love the work that I do is all centered around advancement and well-being and underserved communities. So like you can put so many labels to that. Like, am I a well-being and success coach? Am I an empowerment? I like to go in and make things better. Like pull out the best in people, pull out the best in organizations. I'm a strengths-based person at the core. That's what my value is. It's like, let's not focus on all that other stuff, the things that you don't like, the things that you're not good at. Like, let's focus on what makes you special and what makes you you. Whether I'm a mother, whether I'm the friend, whether I'm the coach, whether I'm the teacher, educator, whatever it is. Like, that is me at the core.
And the strengths piece, because literally we had just taken a picture, y'all. And I immediately was like, oh, this, I see all the wrinkles. I see this, I see that. Because I didn't listen to my higher vibrational self when it told me to bring an iron. And I didn't. And then
to me either, girl.
Listen. And I immediately focused on it. And you were like, why are we noticing all the things that are wrong? And I was like, OMG.
Why are we focusing on the flaws?
You know,
do
my
we see
eyes,
all of this excellence here? Ain't nobody paying attention to a wrinkle.
My eyes immediately went to my little faux pas. I was like, is it coming? Did I suck it in today? I know these Spanx better be working.
We're not looking at a faux pas. And I have a very good friend. Her mother told me early on, stop pointing your flaws out to people. And I think that as Black women, women, and especially as Black women, we often have a hard time being entitled to the desire, to the honor, to the praise that we can receive. And we go to start, like, someone gives us a compliment and we find it hard to receive because we want to give. And so then we're like, oh girl, and then we like take the compliment, push it to the side, and then focus on something else. But like, why do we do that?
I don't know.
So I do that too, and I've made a conscious effort to chill out with that.
Especially if, and this is just what it is, especially if you are like an attractive person and you have been and you're used to it. And you like use the compliments and people make compliment, and it could be attractive in different ways. It could be your style. It could be how you physically look. It could just be things about you
the
that
way
people
you
find
rock your shoes.
It's not just like, pretty. I just mean attractive. And you obviously you go through life for 20 years or something. It's like, okay, people find me attractive. They always say it. You start to like want to like make sure that they don't think that you think that you're attractive. Like you know, like you try to dim your light so that others can feel like, hey, no, I don't feel that way about myself. I am a lowly, regular person. person.
Can I tell you, I had such an issue with that. I just turned 40. I'm saying that here.
Yes, you just turned 40.
Hello.
And I am radiating all over the place. And I will not turn my light down to make anybody more comfortable. You're going to get this light. You put your shades on. But this light will not be turned down. And I'm just at this place now. I feel like the closer, like getting to this space in my life and looking at, it's never served me not to shine my light.
Yeah.
It has always served me well when I let my light shine.
That part.
Yeah.
It has always, when I show up as my authentic self and I don't worry about what other people think and I don't worry about what they might be saying, that's when I'm able to show up and be my confident self and be my best self and vibrate highly and not be like, I don't know what everyone thinks. Like, F that.
We curse our
Okay.
We curse.
Because we're talking about triggers, right? But that was a trigger for me. Like, it was a trigger to have someone be like, oh my gosh, like she's taking up too much space. No, I deserve to take up this space.
Yeah.
And I work on being, we've had this conversation, I work on being trigger happy. How do I take my triggers and turn them into a space that I can go down a thought that leads to a behavior, that leads to an action that serves me well. Instead of it being that I'm triggered and now you've taken me out of my zone, out of my vibration, my space. You don't get to set the temperature, boo. I'm the thermometer. Here we are. So
I'm not gonna keep giving over my power to you because I'm the one that has to live with that powerless feeling.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
And I
think
that.
about that a lot too.
I'm radiating all over the place. Like I'm gonna take that. So just know, don't worry, I'll at you so you know it's real.
Get this sunshine in your
Yes, you don't get this sunshine. But the whole I'm radiating all over the place, it really is true because in you radiating, you give me power to say, okay, this is what I resonate with. This is what feels good and honors my highest self. And this is what I'm going to now see how I can take this on and work it for me. Because you had given me or gave me permission. And no, we're not asking for validation, but you helped to give me permission and help me to see that, hey, it's okay that you feel as though you should put yourself first. Because I used to feel really bad about it. And when I would talk about it sometimes on social media, I would literally have women say, well, how can you be a good mom if you say all these things about you or about motherhood, or about your experience? And I'm like, what? They aren't mutually exclusive. I can be a damn good mother and still be like, fuck them kids.
Ask them how that's working out for them. And where they put in their judgment and shadowing their judgments onto you.
Like, I get to be a whole person.
Me too.
My life did not end because I brought a life into being. It actually is now, I just get to learn how to now be the better or a different version of myself. Because I don't think if you have kids, you're better or worse. It's just, this is now a different version and a better version that I get to figure out how am I going to be. And so for you, you literally are one of the most well-rounded humans I know. And I know I've told you this, but you literally are. From the time I met you, it has always been, how do I honor Amber? What does honoring Amber look like? And then how am I going to honor those around me by first honoring me? And so being, yes, you are a phenomenal mother. Yes, you are an intentional partner, but you're also dedicated to, like I say, honoring your needs first. And for many, they do consider that being selfish. And it took me a long time to be like, yeah, I am selfish. However, I can't serve you unless it serves me first. So what are some ways that like we can kind of lean into prioritizing us first as women, mothers, professionals, and as partners? Like, what are some ways that we can even do that or even get on that path to start that?
Oh, I love that. That's such a great question. So in my work, in the coaching work that I do, I often start with values. What are your values? And asking people, what do you value to the core of you? What makes you happy? What makes you feel like a good person? Because our self-worth is subjective. It's what we place worth on. Some people place worth on being cute. Some people place worth on being nice. Some people place worth on helping the world or whatever it is that they do on their purpose. When we know our values, we know where we place our worth. And it's very important for the self-worth of a woman, of a human being, to know what our values are. Because if we act against our values, then we often feel that we're unworthy of receiving blessings, unworthy of receiving love, unworthy of being accomplished or successful in some way. So I think that that why values are so important to me, and you know, I always speak to me, but I study positive psychology. So this is also something that's like science and research based. When we know what our values are and we act in ways that honor our values, then we're able to be happier and more fulfilled, more successful, more purpose-driven. And so for me, why I don't think and believe in it being selfish to honor my values, because I was a whole woman, a whole person before I got married, before I had kids, before any of these other expectations came about of me. If I am pouring from my cup, if I'm pouring from an empty cup, then I'm not giving the best of myself if I'm not showing up authentically as who I am.
Exactly.
And when I show up and I say that everybody else is important and that I don't deserve to fulfill my needs or my desires or the things that I want, then how does that really affect me long term? How sustainable is it to not be values driven, to not honor yourself, to not, you know, recognize the woman that or the person that you were before you became all these other titles? If you went into a job and you had to be the CEO of XYZ company and they said, do this, be the CEO, you have to fit into this box. You might be able to do that for a year or two. And then what happens?
You're gonna be tired.
You're tired. You're like, this is not me. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
So to me, I look at the way that I approach things as a sustainable approach to life. And although I'm a dedicated mother, my children love me and we have a great time, but when mommy needs a break, when mommy needs to go on a trip, when mommy has to come hang out with her girlfriends and do an interview, when mommy has to do the things, we have boundaries. And I'm teaching my daughter and I'm teaching my son that they deserve to honor their values and to have boundaries as well.
That's it. That's awesome.
Teaching them boundaries. And it's okay to teach your kid, hey, this is a line that you cannot cross. No, I don't want you, like, and I used to have to do it because my daughter has no boundaries when it comes to me in the bathroom. And that used to drive me bonkers. And she'd just bust in and start all these major conversations, deep conversations.
And you like, what?
I'm trying to scrub right now. Listen, sis, I'm trying to get my life together. I'm up here detoxing. Get out. And so we had to have a conversation. I'm like, hey, I love you. I adore having conversations with you, and we're going to talk about all the things, but when I'm in the bathroom, I need you to honor that that's my time alone. That's but where I didn't draw the line, because this bothered me since she could walk, and she started walking at 9 months. And so she literally has been coming into the bathroom from the time she was 9 months old, barging on in, and I'm just like, and no, I lied. She started trotting at 9 months, walking at 10. We got to keep ourselves honest, but it's been 12 years, y'all. Be patient with me. But like, it was really bothersome for me, and I never said anything, and it was dishonoring myself, and I would literally like get a whole attitude with her, like yell at her, like, what do you want? And it's like, sis, you're not mad at her. You're mad at you because you are not honoring your boundary. Honor your own boundary, and you can stop being mean to people who you love.
Sustainability, right? Like, you can only be nice for so long until somebody keeps on cringing on your space or the things that are important to you.
It goes back to even what we were talking about with Danielle Leslie about just being honest with yourself. Like we lie to ourselves unintentionally, right? Just accepting things and going with things, and we're definitely programmed to do that, especially as women. Where it's just like, okay, let me just be agreeable. Let me be easy to get along with.
That's so true.
Because that is how we're loved. You know, like that kind of like, okay, I'm just going to say yes. I'm just going to fake this. Like I said last time, fake this orgasm. I'm just going to say yes to this thing. I'm going to say yes to this salary or whatever it is that we're just agreeable to, because that makes us feel like that's how we'll get the love that we want. And it's just not sustainable.
It is not. Because think of how often is it that, so you speak for a girlfriend or speak for yourself, that you see someone in a relationship and they see this guy maybe that they want to be with, and it's like, I'm going to form myself into the person that he wants. And it becomes, I'll do that. Oh, I'll say that. Oh, I'll cook that. Oh, I'll like that. I'll do all of that. And then a year later, where are we with things? Then we're mad. Like, oh, he wants me to do this, but sis, that's how you got him.
You start resenting
That's how you got him. Yes, and it's not his fault. You literally have trained him.
This was your representative.
This is what you're going to do.
Yes, I call it method acting. And we talked in one of our previous episodes, actually the one with Danielle, we talked in the previous episode about trying on characters to see how they work for you and see who you need to be in that different space and phase. So when I say method acting, that's not the acting that I'm talking about, y'all. But method acting, and Denzel Washington, I think, is one of the greatest actors like ever. And he says whenever he is becoming a role, he goes away from his family to completely become that person. Mm-hmm. But then what he does is when it's time for him to go back to his family, to his wife, he goes away again for a bit of time to take away all of who that person is so that he can always remain and stay true to himself.
Ooh.
And what happens and what we do, honestly, sometimes men and women, is we become who we think our partner needs us to be.
Oh, yes.
Like become all of it. So we become method actors, but we then get angry because there's no time and space for us to now shed who that person is to then be who we truly are.
And then we get lost. That's why so many women always say you get lost in being a wife, get lost in being a mother, get lost in even being an entrepreneur or anything. You get lost in all of it because you just feel like that's the I know that it's all to get love. Like we do all these things so that people
we
love
want to
us
be
and
loved
accept us and seen and heard and all that shit. But I love that you talked about it being sustainable because I was talking to a girlfriend. You guys know I'm a new mom. And I was talking to somebody and they were asking me if I went through postpartum depression. And I was just like, no, I didn't go through that. And she was like, how? Every woman goes through that. I was just like, no, they don't. And they were just like, yeah. I mean, it's just like they were talking about it as if it were a natural expected thing. Yeah. And I was just like, no. And she was like, well, what did you like? Did you take something? Like, what were you doing? And I was just like, no, I had made a very, very conscious decision that was just not going to happen to me because I was going to voice and ask for the things that I needed.
Proactively.
Yes. Period. Like there was just things that I'm just not doing by myself. Like you're gonna have to get up with me at 4:00 in the morning. Like we had the conversations. Like me and my fiance, I was just like, no, I need you to go. Like, can you go get the diaper? Because I don't want to change her right now. I don't need a reason. It's not because I'm doing something else. It's not because I'm working. It's because I don't fucking want to.
I love it.
And you can go ahead and do that. Thank you.
I invite you.
You know, like I had been very comfortable in that space with myself of just being like, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm just not. That's just
that. But applause for your man. Applause for your fiance.
Yes.
And being with that, you know, because we can be in these spaces where we feel like we have to please our man and please our man and please our man.
An exchange.
He needs to please you too.
Yeah.
Go get the fucking diaper.
And change the baby.
Yes. And not in like a bossy way or to boss, you know, like to make him feel like a bitch, but it has to be. I really believe in exchanges in relationships.
Yeah,
like if there's no reciprocity, I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I know that for women, I'm just throwing that out there for mothers, especially that you have to start getting to a space where you think about sustainability because you cannot be this mother and this wife and this person for a long period of time at your best self if you're doing things that are taking so much from you that you're literally getting the life sucked out of you. Like it can start to feel like that. Yeah. Like women just start walking around like straight zombies.
Yeah.
Like it's not bathing.
It's the Walking Dead because we're just like drained.
But then playing victim, but it was a choice.
Yeah.
It was a choice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a choice. And you choose it. And so you can't be mad. Like, oh, well, I just have to do all the things. I told my girlfriend, I'm like, there are just some things that I'm not going to accept. She said, well, that's just what it is when you have kids. I said, no, it is not. I was like, in love, you have a husband. I did it by myself. Even when I was married, I was a married single parent.
Yeah.
And I still made the conscious choice and decision. I'm going to build a village that I can trust to take my load off. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we gotta. That's where we gotta get to.
Yeah.
To where create and build a village. And I did not have all the things. I couldn't afford a nanny. Those were things that I couldn't afford. So please don't be like, oh, well, you can afford a nanny. No, I couldn't afford a nanny at the time. Mm-hmm. So what I could afford was this good intuition to develop some relationships that would help me so that I could trust them, so that I could not drown in motherhood.
Yeah.
Because I was already drowning in life. I needed to also not drown in this new role that I had to hold. And I was very intentional about making sure that I am creating a child who doesn't have a childhood that she is so traumatized by. Because I was straight traumatized by my childhood. I wanted to make sure from the beginning that I was instilling not only the values that I believe that they can, whether or not she takes them on as her core values, but she can, let me test this out. Let me see if this works for me. Mm-hmm. But also I wanted to make sure that I was showing her that you are deserving of a full love. Like, 'cause I, man, 30 was when I finally realized that I was deserving of full love, and I'm only 36. So that means I spent the first 30 years of my life not understanding that I deserve full love. So for her, I was intentional about that from the beginning. And so for you, you are raising two phenomenal tiny humans. They're just some dope little people. I love
Shout out to my little people.
I love the little people, tiny humans. And admittedly, they are not so tiny anymore. And growing up for you, because I know you grew up in Detroit, it was vastly different from how you are raising your children. And we talk about that all the time. Like, these kids are some new kids.
Yeah. Especially the pandemic babies like mine. It's different.
They knew.
We had a whole other set of expectations.
Listen, I mean, they expect the creme de la creme of all of life. Yes. And I do like that. And also, what does intentional parenting look like for you? Like, what does that look like? So I know you were just talking about boundaries too, but what does that intentional parenting look like for you?
Yeah, intentional living, what that looks like for me. I feel like you can live by default or you can live by intention.
Yeah.
And when you live by default, you get what you get. Ooh. When you live by intention and when you are open to learning from situations and not just judging them, then it just opens up life. When you can explore the curiosities of who you are. So as a parent, when I can explore the curiosities of what does it look like for my child to challenge me and me not to respond in the way that my mother or father or someone did for me? Yeah. Or what does it look like for them to push the limit on what a gender norm is and for me to just let them be who they are? Or what does it look like for me to not just put on them, project onto them what my fears are or my limitations? So I feel like intentional parenting is really looking at the person that your child is. We're not raising children, we're raising adults. Yeah. So we're not raising a child. We're not, if you tell your child, you're taking away from their efficacy, from their confidence, if you're just telling them all of what they should be doing. Yeah. With me, I'm intentional in that I let them be curious and explore what they should be doing. I let them make mistakes sometimes, but I tell them and they know I'm going to be here for you. Yeah. I'm going to love you unconditionally. Yeah. I'm going to celebrate you. I'm going to get in your ass when you do something wrong. I'm gonna tell you that wasn't wrong and like that wasn't right and like how did that make you feel and like what do you want to do next time? And so just being intentional and letting them show up as the people who they are and not the person who I want them to be is what is so important for me as a parent. Because we as adults, we need that. What if your man showed up and told you who he needed you to be? What if your fiance told you, like, I need you to be this, or your job told you, that's why we're entrepreneurs. That's why we're free in who we are. And that freedom to me is one of my top values, right? And so I want to allow for my children to be free, but I'm here to put up guardrails, give you guidance, give you a complete 1,000% honest feedback on things that you may be questioning or wondering about. But what I try to do is do it without the judgment and more with the curiosity. So as an intentional parent, I ask more questions than the advice that I give. I take a lot of my coaching skills into my parenting. As a coach, you're supposed to recognize that your client has everything that they need to be everything that they need to be.
Right. You're not always telling them what to do.
Yeah. I look at my children like that. Yeah. You got everything that you need. I'm just going to ask you questions to make you think about and be more intentional in the way you
as more of a guide.
Decisions you make. Yeah.
It also teaches them too accountability. Like
and critical thinking.
Critical thinking. And that's a huge
we can't figure it out for them.
No. And it helps them too because I feel like most people, everyone doesn't use common sense. They may have it, but they don't always use it. When you teach them,
common sense ain't all too common. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we should call it something else sense because it ain't common.
But I feel like you help to develop that in children. It helps them to develop emotional intelligence when you allow them to think through a process.
Yes.
Like I will ask my daughter sometimes, especially depending on what she's doing. I'm like, hey, I thought you said that this particular item was for this particular purpose. Are you using it for the purpose that you said you were going to get it for? And she'll be like, well, no, but I was like, I'm just trying to figure out. Didn't you say that this is what you wanted it for?
That's good.
So what does that mean if you're not using it for that?
Yeah.
And then
call her on it. Yeah.
Like, well, I guess it meant that I lied. I was like, yeah, that's what it's looking like, sis. I mean, so what are we gonna do? But
how's that working out for you? That's such a good question to ask. How's that working out for you?
And that's how I've always like talked to her, like 6 months old, like, hey, yo, sis, all this hollering, your mommy don't got the patience. We gonna have to come up with some different coping mechanisms.
That's why Sanaya is a whole grown woman.
Oh yeah,
I had no patience.
Woman. Yes.
And I do look at it now, and I'm like, might not have been fair, considering that is the only way she could communicate at the time. Allowing her to express herself through tears and letting her get her emotions out. And so now, when she go to crying, I just let her cry. Like, all right, well, let me know when you finish or how I could, how I can help you out.
I do it now. I do it. My baby's 17 months, and sometimes she's really intense and passionate, and sometimes I want to spike her like a football. And I decided that I would like to keep her alive, and I don't want to go to jail. And I love her so much. Okay.
That's real honest.
It's just
that is so honest.
It is the truth.
Every mom has had that moment.
Oh my God!
Like, or 20 times.
It's like, just a lot. But
I can't spike the baby.
I believe in my breath and breathing through some shit. And there was like a moment the other day where she was just losing it. Oh, I'm weaning off of my breast, and that is like a thing, right? And it was like the middle of the day, and I've cut back. So my plan is no boobs during the day. So only to go to sleep and only in the morning. So none in the day. So there was like a moment through the throes of this weaning, and she was just losing her shit and just like ripping my shirt, and she says Milky, and she's like, it's just an assault on me, right?
An assault.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, I want to scream at her, like I do, like I feel it in my throat, like you start your throat,
and then when you start imagining you doing it, it's like, no, don't imagine.
Yeah, that's what happened. I saw myself screaming at her, and I was just like, you know what? And I literally hugged her, and I was like, I'm gonna hold space for you. I don't want to give you my breast. I know you want it, but I'm done. And I promise you, I'm sitting here. She's I'm done. I said, I'm done with this, and I need you to understand that.
Good for you.
I am here to hold the space for you.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. But you know what though?
Real, it was like 5 minutes later, like she really and I held her, and I was like, just breathe it through with me.
Yeah.
And she was like trying to wiggle, and after a while, like I was just taking deep breaths with her. It was crazy. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, she's 17 months. But for me,
you are training her.
I needed to do something other than yell at her or spike her. And I went to my own coaching tools and my own modalities that I've learned in therapy. Like, breath works. It just does. It's our source. So let me just take a second. And I really breathed her through this. And I haven't breastfed now during the day. We're going on 3 weeks, and she hardly asks anymore. I didn't have to put no aloe on my nipple, lemon, but whatever. It was just me tapping into the fact that she's a human before she's a baby. I love that you're saying we're raising adults, because you are.
And I've never thought of it that way.
I've thought of it, but I've never put words to it.
Yeah,
like
I said.
So I needed that terminology. Like, I am raising an adult. Like, we always think sometimes people let children get away with everything because they're children, and it's just like, but that translates into an asshole.
20. Because do you think that they turn 20 and turn it off and go, oh, I'm 20 now, I'm not supposed to do that?
No.
But that boundary that you're putting up when that young man is like, let me just stick it in you. Let me just rub it in one time. Let me just put the head in. Then she's like, no.
Yeah.
We can still be cool, or we can function in the way that I want to, but I'm not letting you do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're
this
teaching her boundaries in every little way that you set them for yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, because I grew up not seeing none of that shit.
Right. So you gotta let him rub it on you one time.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And it's not just one time.
Let me just stick the head in. No.
This never works
like that.
It never ends well. That never ends well.
Like, this is full-blown sex. It went from just the head to now full-blown sex, and I'm not enjoying myself. Go away.
But it's true, just learning, like, what you're saying, what you do with Sanaya now. Like, it's like funny that you said it, because like, wow, I just did that the other day. Like, I said, I was like, I'm holding space for you. When you're done, I'll be here. And I love that you said that with your children. It's just like, you just let them know, like, hey, I'm here for you, but here's your freedom to figure this human shit out as I'm trying to figure it out. And maybe somewhere along the lines we can help each other.
Because I'm trying to figure out not knocking your head off.
Because they say that about that your children come here to teach you things too.
Absolutely.
1,000%.
So I always try to be conscious of that. And in moments, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from your little ass today? Because you drive me crazy. It's like, I'm about to lose my shit. You know,
it makes it worth it when there's a lesson in it. Otherwise,
I gotta find one. You have to dig sometimes and just find the lesson so you can smile and move on and keep your baby alive. But I want to hear you talk about being an intentional parent. The first thing that came to my mind is how self-aware you have to be to do that. So you've obviously been doing some self-awareness work.
Like, especially highly self-aware.
Yeah, like the intentional living. Like I hadn't equated, like you can't be an intentional parent without living intentionally. I love that.
Yeah, so that made me think, I was okay, you have to be a self-aware human because like we were talking about the other day, we were talking about our mothers and just how hard it is to be a single mother and work. Like I now have started to understand why maybe she would get frustrated or why she would yell or why she would hit or why, because like I can't imagine working 2 jobs and then coming home to a little baby you might want to spike. Like you like that, like it's so hard. And I don't think we even give single mothers enough credit sometimes as to how fucking hard it is to really do this and not like yell and scream and kick and pump. Like the fact that you can get, if you're a single mother and you are not abusing your children, shout out to you. Because I'm serious, because it is really hard. I'm not a single mother. I'm home. This is my job. Hello. I coach. Like, it's plush. It's a little plush. And I still feel crazy, you know? So it gives me this level of empathy for my mother that I didn't have before.
Totally.
You know? So when we were talking about it, and then we were just like, well, how hard would it have been, like, to be intentional? Like, especially for people who are disadvantaged and have to do those things. Where do you have time to be self-aware?
Even if we take it to, like, so let's take it, I always have to take it kind of science-based. So, right, if we look at, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If your basic needs are not met, then it's hard to serve higher level needs. It is. Like, if you don't know, if you're stressing about how the rent's going to be paid, if you're stressing about how you can feed this child, then you are like, look, baby, I'm just trying to feed you. So, like, it is hard to be intentional when you have to.
With you.
Right.
I can't help you and breathe. I'm trying to keep me and you alive.
That's it. Yeah. So I wanted to know, what are some of the steps that you've taken? Because we hear people like, oh, I'm self-aware, but what does that mean? And what does it look like to go from a space of not being self-aware to evolving into a self-aware human so that you can be that intentional person, parent, lover, friend, everything? Because it's just, I know it's a word that's it's like a buzzword and everyone's self-aware and intentional and lifted and vibrating high. But I think sometimes some action steps would be nice to know what that looks like to go from not being self-aware to self-aware.
Well, let's start with courage. Because it takes courage to be self-aware. Because if we can sit and go through life with blinders on, but again, I'm going to ask the question of how's that working out for you? You know, and so the courage of asking people to give you feedback, feed forward, as I call it. Like the courage of doing self-reflection, of having a situation happen and maybe it doesn't happen the way that you want it to, and really going and not being the victim, being the creator. How can I create something from this? How can I learn something from this? What did I do? What can I own in this? Because you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. We drive ourselves crazy trying to get somebody else to change. Hey, you change, you do this, you do that, you do that. I realized, I'm an only child also. So I realized early on that the greatest work that I could do is in myself. If I'm sitting and expecting everybody else around me to change, but I'm showing up the same way, then I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. Absolutely. So it is like, I've totally shared a million times, I love triggered AF because we are triggered by so many things in life. And self-awareness is knowing our triggers. Our triggers to take us in a good direction, our triggers to take us in a bad direction. Reflecting on that and recognizing and honoring how we want to show up. How do you want to show up? What do you want the end result to be? And so if we are aware of the things that make us happy, that make us sad, that make us mad, then we're able to have that self-awareness and really use it to our advantage to know that I don't need to put myself in that situation. Or when I do put myself in that situation, I need this backup. What is my resilience plan? What is the support that I need? What makes me shine? How do I radiate? Like, these are the things that I think that when we ask ourselves these questions, when we are brave enough to be self-aware, because there's courage in being self-aware.
Yes.
They say God blesses fools and babies. Fools and babies are very not self-aware.
They're
but
unaware.
When you know better, you're supposed to do better. Right? And so that can work to our advantage or to our disadvantage. And so I look at self-awareness as such an important step in really flourishing and living the lives that we want to live.
Yeah.
Whether it's through, like, we're coaches. So coaches need coaches. Therapist. I got a coach. I got a therapist. I got a strategist. I got friends that are honest with me. I don't put me around people who are not honest with me. One of the things I value so much in our relationship, I love your honesty. You always show up 100% as who you are, and it doesn't matter who else is around. And you're like, you about to get this, Leisha, like this is it. But that's awareness of what makes you feel good and right. And I love to put myself around people who do that, because I'm not gassing you up with some empty stuff. Like although I call out strengths in people, I'm super 100 about it. And so when someone may not be as aware of their own strengths, I find it uplifting to be able to say, hey, you know that you're really good with people. You're really good with kids. And that awareness can help you lean into your strengths. It can help you lean into the parts of you that may have gone unrecognized. Right? And so whether it's a self-assessment, a coach, an honest friend, find yourself some way to get some self-awareness.
Get you some. And it starts first with courage.
It does.
I love that.
Being brave enough to even look at yourself and have other people look at you too and see you.
Right? That's and being okay with being whole. That you are a whole person. You do not have to be, you have a light and a dark side. We all do.
Yes.
We have shadow work is important work to do. Like and being able to have compassion, care and compassion of it's okay, maybe I didn't do that right. Maybe I'm not so proud of the way that I showed up in this moment, but I can do better next time. And that takes self-awareness and courage.
What are some of the challenges knowing these things? Right? Because sometimes you'll know all the things and still do stupid shit. What are some of the challenges that you face, with trying to be more self-aware and more intentional? You guys are full of great questions. I love it. I think that I try to balance my personal development. Being someone who is very big, I've always been very big on personal growth. It's got me to where I am. It got me from the little hood rat in Detroit to being a successful young woman, grown woman in New York. It has. It really, really has. Maybe not a hood rat, but
it's okay. I was a hood baby. It's okay. I was a hood baby.
Humble beginnings, So I think that it's just so important overall to just embrace the different sides of who we are. You asked the question and I'm veering off. What
challenges you face trying to be more self-aware and intentional? Okay, I'm back. Okay, here we are. So constant growth can also look like not accepting yourself. If I say that I can always be better, then at what point do I say I accept myself as I am? So I've tried to find a balance between accepting myself as who I am and then growing into the woman that I'm meant to be. And that looks like compassion for me, and self-care and self-reflection and taking a moment to check in with myself. Where am I? What can I be doing differently? And when we play these roles as wife, as mother, as whatever professional roles that we play, we can get so wrapped up in who other people want us to be that it's this constant feeling of not being enough. But that goes back to where we started earlier in this conversation about self-worth. And where we place our values. And so one of the things that I value is space and grace for myself and for others. And so when I feel like I am not meeting my expectation in a certain area, then I very consciously take a break or a step back and I say, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to do differently? Because if I want to get different results, I need to show up and do something different. And that can look like surrounding myself with different people. That can look like reading a book and putting different thoughts in my head. That can look like cutting somebody off that doesn't fucking deserve my energy. It can look like so many different things. It can.
I love it.
I wasn't ready. Okay.
You wasn't ready.
So it's that balance between personal growth and acceptance.
And like loving yourself through the different changes.
This is just a part of my journey. And it's okay. Yeah. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to, it's like I always have a choice to say, but from this point on, and then define whatever it is that I want that to be.
Absolutely. And I get to change that when I feel as though it is time to make a shift. I get to decide that. I get to decide that.
Yeah, unapologetically. Hey, guess what? That was me yesterday, but today, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
What Nikki say? This a new body. This a new body. This is a new body.
Listen, I'm here for it.
I love that. And too, when we're thinking about taking a look at those different, those different options or those differences in terms of compassion, and also, I'm gonna give myself permission to grow. I always think Instagram versus reality, where you have those videos where they're like, okay, this is what it looks like on Instagram, and now this is reality. Hot fucking mess.
Right.
A lot of people too nowadays, like social media will literally have you thinking that the only way to have a good marriage is if he spends all his monies, he works hard, he never takes a break, he serves you with everything he has. And the honest truth is, if it's not reciprocal, if you're not also filling his cup, you're going to find that you won't have him for very long. So you're going to either A, have a heart attack, or B,
all the stress.
Or B, he going to find him somebody who could maybe, fill his cup as well, right? Yeah. So after 11 years of marriage, many people would feel as though, okay, there's no more work that needs to be done. We have reached...
Who are they?
Listen, you'd be surprised. Yeah. We have reached the pinnacle of all the things. There's nothing else for us to learn. We are good. Yeah. We are gurus and relationship goals.
It's really true though. Like even when you watch certain shows and it's like a couple that's been on there for they're on the show. There's this show I watched on VH1. You know I love reality TV.
Oh, VH1. Oh no, this ain't.
No, it was a show. It's like a couples retreat. Yes, I love that show. And there was a couple, I think it was some rapper from back in the day.
Jadakiss? I mean, Styles P
and his wife.
I like Ratchet TV.
Yes, I love reality TV. So they were on the show and they were just like coming with all this advice and like they were just coming in as if they had it all figured out, just to kind of, like piggyback on what you're saying.
Because she know I don't watch reality
TV. But they were just like very guarded and like just putting forth like, we've been married for 20 years. We like have everything figured out. But then the other couples were like, then why the fuck are you here? And over time, things started getting revealed as to what their real issues were. So it like, especially for people who've been married for a long time, it's very easy to kind of get to like an arrogant space of, we got this. Yeah. But you learn like, there's always, because people are always evolving, they're always kind of like new things to adjust to.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's why I want to know from you, like what have been the greatest lessons that you've learned in marriage? Because there are so many lessons that you learn, lessons about yourself, lessons about life. So what have been some of those for you?
Oh, there's so many, right? I mean, because I feel like a great marriage helps you to hold a mirror up to yourself.
Yes.
And to really understand more of who you are. And when we can be who we are without feeling like we have to be something to somebody else, that's when we can be free. I'm a Pisces, I'm a butterfly. I cannot be trapped.
I don't like it either, and I'm a Taurus. Don't trap me.
You probably got some Pisces somewhere in your...
I got some
rise in the moon.
Right. Yes. I got some things I be flying away from. If it's a trap, you want to put me, hold me? Oh no, I gotta go.
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
But I think that like with marriage, there's so many expectations that people put on it based on what they've seen, what they've experienced, what they desire, what they want. You have to do in marriage what works for you. Yes. I don't like to judge other people's marriage. If you gotta go swinging, if you gotta go opening your marriage, if you gotta go being super submissive, whatever it is that works for you all, let that work for you all. Within my marriage, I have always showed up as myself. Yeah. And my husband knows that about me. Yeah. I did not show up and say, I'm going to put a bonnet on and cook dinner 5 nights a week. Because I don't do that. Like, I love to cook, not 5 nights a week. And I love to go out with my friends. And I love to have a great time. And I love to travel. And I love to be able to engage in conversation with people of the opposite sex, people of the same sex. You're not going to put me in a box. We're not going to call marriage this because this is what your parents called it. Yeah. We're, as two people, going to decide what works for our union.
Yeah, decide and define. Yeah.
And we're going to define that. And we are going to have agreements that work within I am big and set on, like, even when I go into organizations, I work with teams and I say, let's set some agreements. What's the culture in the situation? How do you show up for each other?
Yeah.
And so I do that in my household. What is our culture? And if we make agreements and you're going against the agreements, then I'm like, remember when you said that you agreed that this is how we were going to be?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going with the agreement anymore. So now what are we going to do about it?
Do we need to revisit it? Do we need to revise it? Like do we need to throw it out and draft a new one? Like what's the plan?
What is it for?
Yeah. I think it's very unhealthy to say till death do us part in this day and age, if I'm 100% honest, because then you give someone permission to not do the work. I'm about doing the work. We doing it together.
Why do you say that? Like it gives them permission not to do the work?
Because then we say that no matter what, I'm going to be here. And there are, so boundaries, what we talked about boundaries, it is for me, and this is just me and
it's interesting.
When I think about happy marriages, fulfilling marriages.
Yeah.
People who feel trapped in a situation, who are showing up and being what their partner wants them to be without honoring what they need, are not the happy people. I have coached them. I have friended them. I have talked to them.
Yeah.
And within my marriage, within my home, we both recognize that I've been with my husband for 13 years. People evolve.
They do.
And so we can evolve and we can grow together. Yeah. But if there is a time where we need to, maybe you go here and I go there and we figure things out, we're going to allow each other that space. They say that you got to love somebody enough to let them go. And that's what that really is to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So it's not always the popular, I get people don't ever throw around the divorce word. But if I sit here and I tell you that no matter what you do, I'm going to be here for you, how does that give you any motivation to show up and be your best self?
So it's kind of like that concept of maybe unconditional love can be a crutch.
I can unconditionally love you and not be married to you.
Oh, see,
I have unconditional love, but I don't have to stay.
But I can love you from a distance.
From a distance.
That's so interesting. That's interesting. It's interesting hearing a married person say, because a lot of times you hear people that aren't married say stuff like that. It's like, well, would you really do that in the situation? So it's an interesting perspective to take, because we're all taught that, like, if you get a divorce, it's a failure. If you don't make it work, it's because you didn't do everything in your power. And there's this idea that, I have to make you feel like I won't ever go anywhere so that you can feel secure. But I think I get what you're saying, that it can serve as like this, okay, well, let me
ain't gotta do nothing.
You
take off my shoes and relax my feet.
There maybe needs to be like a little bit of like a, hey, this bitch might leave me if I don't get my shit together.
To me, not being happy is a failure.
Ooh.
Not being fulfilled is a failure.
Hello.
Not being fully self-expressed is a failure.
Yeah.
That's just where I am.
Yes.
Fully self-expressed.
So like, if marriage doesn't work, is it a failure? I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I would say that. I've heard it.
Like, I've heard people like are in depression after a divorce because they felt like they failed.
I was in bliss. I was in bliss.
I know, but when my sister got divorced, she had a really hard time because she felt like she failed.
Oh, man.
Because society tells her this paradigm we live in says that you have,
she was miserable.
Why do we have to take someone else's definition and apply it to ourselves?
Exactly.
Don't apply, let it fly.
This
is Roe versus Wade. If I want to do something with my body, let me do it. So. If I want to do something in my marriage, then why does the world need to be concerned what that looks like?
Why?
So in terms of social media, like even bringing it back to this place on social media, I think that like I use social media once I have reflected on something, I've unpacked it and I understand it.
Yeah.
And I'm not using it as a space to do so, because people have to earn your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And people on social media have not earned my vulnerability. I don't owe you shit.
Yeah,
I can post whatever I want to.
Yeah.
Okay, what am I posting behind the scenes? None of your business. This is what I'm posting today.
What you get to see. Thanks.
Yeah. And so I never try to post anything that's not like real life representation, but people will take from a situation what they take from it based on what they're going through.
Yeah.
Based on what they want to believe. Yeah. Based on what they want to think. Like, I just don't really try to get too wrapped up in that.
Yes. Ooh. I'm enjoying this. Like this
I love y'all. I can talk to y'all all day long. Like, oh my gosh.
That's really interesting. I like the process, because it makes me think about like, if you have to do that, if you're doing that within your marriage, obviously you're doing that with like your whole life, right? Like you're kind of building this life around the things that you want, the things that you desire. So I love this idea of just kind of, Alicia and I were talking about this when we were making up the questions, like creating a life that you don't need to escape from, right? Like where you don't, the life you don't need a vacation from. Like obviously life is not always going to feel like a vacation. Like you got to work, you got to do things, like life is happening all around us all the time, but just a life that you like, for the most part, you're like, this is cool. Like I like this life. Like I'm happy I came to Earth and I'm doing a damn thing.
For sure.
So we want to kind of know when it comes to the work that you do, like, because you're obviously, like I said, very intentional with parenting, with marriage, with everything else. How have you aligned purpose and passion and profit to create that life that you desire? Like, how do you bring everything like in line, and what are some tools that you can share with people to kind of do the same thing?
So this brings me to my, like, my courses are all like under flow and flourish, and like
flow and flourish,
and I say that, and I say not flow like go with the flow, like don't put any intention in it. No, like, but once we recognize, so some of the tools, once we recognize what our values are, once we recognize what our strengths are, once we recognize that what we need in order to show up and to be our best, like if you look at the that's how we get to like a purpose space. If you look at the Ikigai, Japanese believe that the reason for being is a combination of your skills, your strengths, what the world needs from you, and what you can get paid for. And so like that's some of the work that I do when I work with folks too. I ask them to fill in those 4 categories and look at what's repeating itself. And at the core, when things repeat themselves and what you can be paid for is what you're good at, is a part of what the world needs from you, then you get closer to what your purpose is. So I ask myself, I stop and I ask myself those questions. I do myself check-ins of like, I had a dog apparel and accessory company, guys, for like 11 years.
That, she's being modest, also was on Shark Tank. Like, my good sis is phenomenal. Okay.
So, but even after that, so thank you for saying that. But even after that, I had to step back and be like, okay, I started this company when I was 24.
Oh, wow.
And I got into Macy's and I got into all these department stores, and I was like killing it early on in the little pet industry game. I went on Shark Tank, got investment, but I had to take a step back, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Really?
I'm not passionate about it, because the young woman who was single, who didn't have kids, I part of the purpose in that was connecting with people on something that brought them joy. People's pets bring them joy.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. But once I became a mother, and once I got married, my perspective shifted, and I started to recognize that purpose changes as we do. Purpose evolves as we do. And so I had to be honest with myself and say, you know what? The things that brought me joy and that made me feel fulfilled before, I figured out these things that were like, I want to learn how to do online retail. I want to learn how to build websites. I want to learn how to do design and all the things. I figured it out already. So now I want to move on to something else. Next.
You know, but how do you do that without feeling like a quitter or like a flighty person or like someone that's always changing their mind? Or
because I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Because I don't quit before I set out what I go into a situation knowing what I want to accomplish. And once I've accomplished that, I'm moving on. I'm evolving. I'm not quitting.
I love that.
Like, what's next? And that's exciting to me. And so that you ask about the tools. The tools it comes back to the self-awareness. Recognizing what it is that we're good at, what the world needs from us, what we can get paid for, what our strengths are, what we're passionate about, what brings us joy, what we would do if money did not matter. And that's how I got to this space of Course Wellness Collective and my company. I've been doing personal and professional development since I was a gritty little teenager in Detroit, trying to figure out how to get up out the hood and get into New York, into the penthouses that I occupy currently. Like,
okay, then I occupy currently.
If I had a collar, I would have popped it. But wait. It's just a moment. But you know what I mean? So like that, like personal and professional development, like people have asked me, like, how did you go from dog apparel to personal and professional development? Because I've been doing it all around. This is my 4th business. And through all of my business, I've developed myself through reading, through coaching, through asking questions, through going to school, to get to a point where I recognize like what works for me.
Yeah.
Whew. Y'all, I hope y'all sucking up all this goodness, because I'm just sitting up here just getting filled. Cup on overflow.
She's always filling my cup. She's being humble now.
Cup on overflow. Like,
I'm just trying to come with my cup too. Like, y'all got your cups. I just want to bring my cup to the table.
Listen, we all gonna share cups and we gonna fill each other. There we go. Sparse it around. I love that. And the last thing, because I do want to make sure we tap into it, primarily because a lot of people feel as though, it doesn't matter who my friends are, or it's okay if they hold certain roles in my life. Like, as long as I'm good, it doesn't matter who I'm around. Mm-hmm. And I heard someone, and Danny has a phenomenal way in which she says it, because she says she doesn't want to treat people as though they're disposable, so she changes their level of access. And you say it so good, so I definitely want you to.
Yeah. So in the conversation with Danielle Leslie, she was talking about how she kind of places her friends. But I was saying that instead of cutting people off, which is what I used to do because I love to run with scissors, and I got to a space where one time somebody didn't give me a conversation after like a friendship, something like they didn't feel like I was worth the conversation, and it really hurt me. And I was like, oh, I make people feel like this a lot. And it was like a little come to Jesus moment with myself, and I was like, oh, I make people feel disposable. That's a shitty feeling. Thank you, universe, for because it makes me feel really good in the moment to just be like, fuck you, and never talk to you again. And it used to give my low vibrating self, Elsa.
Are you an only child too?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm a baby though. I'm a baby though.
Okay.
So similar. For real, it's like babies are similar to only children. But I'm saying that to say, like, I remember the moment where I was just like, okay, I don't like that I make people feel like this. If this is what it feels like, this sucks. Yeah. It's another reason why I stopped cheating on people too, because I was just like, God, cheating sucks. I got cheated on. I was like, ooh, damn, this is what happens.
So crazy. It's like, it doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, but I like to learn the first time, so I was like, okay, stop doing that too. But anyways, that's another podcast. But I was saying that to say that I learned to the analogy that Alicia's talking about is kind of treat everybody. I use the word plantation, but that's not the word I want to use. What's something else, like a big house?
The big house.
Like a
your vineyard.
Like a vineyard, or like something, a big house with a lot of land, a lot of acres, right? Like that's what I imagine the people in my life. And I live in a big house, it's 2 stories, a country house, something like that. And say you and I were really, really close, and you were in my bedroom because you're in my intimate space. Something happens, the trust is broken. Instead of cutting you off, I may just move you outside to the kitchen. Like, I'm not going to cut you off, but I am going to remove the kind of access you have to me. So that might mean, like Danielle Leslie said, we may not talk every day anymore. Maybe we just check in once a month. So I don't want to get to a space where I'm not giving people grace, but I also don't want to get to a space where my boundaries just get trampled on so you can be in my life. So that's the kind of delicate balance that I found with kind of changing the access to me, kind of helps me secure my boundaries, but let you know that you are still valued to me and I do care about you, but you may just have to go over there.
And I still run with scissors. I'm going to tell you that I love you, I mean it, and unfortunately we'll no longer be able to engage. But I have the conversation. Like if it's one thing I'm going to do is we could talk it out. I'm not going to curse at you. I'm not going to call you out your name. I'm not going to, act crazy, but I am going to tell you the way in which we used to work and operate will not work. Like I had the conversation with a dude who I was dating, and there were some just major red flags. And I was just like, you know what? I think you're a great person. We won't be able to continue to engage in the way we once did.
What was the reason? Was it because obviously if they're like a toxic monster just like ruining your life, then they need to get like kicked off the property. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of times with family members and people like that where it's not so easy to kind of be like, get away from your people you have to interact with. I think it's important to change the access. So what for you was what was it about him that made you feel like, get off my property, beware of the dog? Like, what happened?
To me, if we're dating, and because I'm with my partners, like I'm very much so, not my friends, I'm very much so, very direct, very blunt, very open. With my partners, they experience one of the most extreme soft sides of me. So I literally, I let you into my underbelly. I don't just show it to you, I let you into it. You have direct access to the place that if you touch it too tough, you will crush me. And so if I let you in there and you show me that you cannot be trusted with that level of responsibility, you don't get to stay in my life. Peace the fuck out. Love you, mean it. Love and light, get the fuck out. Love and light, get the fuck out. I'm not playing this game with you. Because if you intentionally try and hurt me emotionally because you know it'll hurt me, I never do that to my partners. My ex-husband was trash. No disrespect. Love and light.
Hope you're not watching.
He can watch. I'll never say his name so I cannot be sued for slander. Fucking trash. Okay? But that's how I felt about myself. So it is a reflection of me. I felt like I was a piece of trash. So I chose someone who treated me as such. It all goes back to you.
Yeah.
He's fucking trash. Now he's grown. He's not trash anymore. I think he's got himself some self-development and everything else. But when we were married, fucking trash. And even in all the things that he did to me, lost a kid because of domestic violence, some very serious things. I never once sought revenge. To this day, emptied our joint bank account, spent all the money. I've never sought revenge because that's just not who I am as a human. So if you know that about my intimate partners, know that about me. So if you intentionally try and hurt me when you know the type of heart I have, get the fuck out. Love you, mean it, get the fuck out of here.
That's a non-negotiable.
Non-fucking negotiable. And you see I'm very passionate.
I was gonna say, is it coming? You having like a flashback?
My bad, I really was. My bad, I'm back, y'all. Had a little bit of a flashback.
Shake it up.
Now I'm back. But yes, get the fuck out. I mean that with all my heart and soul. Because I'm too kind. And if you try and stab me and like, nah, you don't. You can't handle the level of responsibility that is me.
You've learned to know what you deserve.
Absolutely.
And it's a non-negotiable. If somebody is not stepping up to the plate with that, then it's like we have to be less fearful. Like we have to be able to let go. Yeah. Sometimes we can hold on to things so closely, whether it be friendships, whether it be jobs, relationships, whatever it is. Some things you got to be willing to let go. And if they're meant to be, they'll come back. They'll come back. And, in that friendship space, I've done a lot of work over the last few years of like, the personal development part weighs into friendships where sometimes I found myself making it my fault that things were the way they were in certain friendships and not wanting to put fault on the other person because almost having too much compassion or too much care for them of like that they couldn't be doing something wrong. And I realized in a couple very close friendships of mine that I've had to put distance. I try to fall back without falling out. And so like, how do we get to a point of, like you said, maybe we have to talk once a month and not talk on a regular basis and recognizing that we can go our separate ways without putting like a hard line in the sand. Unless you did something that makes you have to get cut off and then I'm running with scissors and I'm unapologetic about it. Like completely.
Love and fuck you too.
Right. But like that, in my friendships, one of the things that I think over the last few years, and this is where we met, I started to put myself in places where I could really learn from other people more. Where I could really, I felt like I had gotten to the point where within my friendship circle, I had really worked my way up. Especially with, like the Shark Tank days and all the things were going on in my business. And so I was looking around and I felt like I was doing really, really great. And I'm like, okay, who's inspiring me? Like, great that I'm inspiring other people. Who's inspiring me? And not to say that my friends weren't inspiring me because they inspire me in different ways, but professionally, I needed to be more inspired. Okay. And so like Alicia and I met on a trip to Australia. Yeah. And then right after we went to South Africa, and I was very intentionally putting myself around people where I was the little dog, like where I was the one starting out. I had built myself up to be the big dog in the pet industry and all the stuff that I was doing then. And so then I pivoted into a whole new space and started from scratch.
There goes that courage.
The courage and the curiosity of what does this look like? This has served me well to this point. Now I want something different. Yeah. And so starting out in a new business, coming from a space where I was like established and very well known in another business was very humbling for me. Yeah. But I learned so much. I showed up and I listened and I didn't talk and I tried, I'm gonna always be noticed in a room just because I'm like big personality, but I tried to just not, like when I was like at Amara, shout out to Color Girl, at Amara and the things that we were in, there's so many times that I set the table. I just showed up to the table and I just listened and I just watched. And I was like, this is such a different position to be in, to just like not show up and have to be like, I'm Amber and I have accomplished this. I was just like, I'm just going to listen to everybody else around here. And I made new friendships, like the friendship with you and the friendships that I've walked away with from these situations. And that vulnerability has allowed me to grow in so many ways. Awesome. And it's never like, life is cyclical. Like I know I'm going to be back on top. Like I'm pretty topping it now. I'm doing well now, but it took me a while to get here. Yeah. And like when we met, I wasn't on top yet. I was like, wow, these folks have got it together. And that was so humbling, but it was so valuable.
And wow, to you to be the kind of person that can be humbled without feeling like you don't belong. Because a lot of times that, I know that's something that I've struggled with in the past. I've worked through it mostly. I'm sure I still have some more work to do. But that is a feeling sometimes that can come up where you feel like you don't belong because you're not at, like, you always talk about, like, don't compare my chapter 24 to your chapter 2, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a nugget for everyone to take away. Like, learn how to put yourself in humbling positions where you can soak up information while still feeling like this is where you're supposed to be and not feeling like you're less than those people. They just have some information and a key for you that you maybe just didn't have before.
Yeah. And even if you feel like you don't belong, still stay there. Because I can't say, if I'm 100% honest, there were parts of me that were like, I don't belong at times.
But and I have
deep
to talk
in back to that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yes, you do belong. Yes, you do deserve this. Yeah. You're here for a reason. God doesn't tease you.
I love
God.
that.
The universe doesn't tease us. Everything is for a reason. So if I'm here, it's because I'm supposed to be here. So clearly I belong. Yes. So I need to get my shit together and tell myself that.
And figure out why. Like, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? Yeah, that's so important because that's definitely been a part of my journey. It's like, okay, I don't feel like I belong. What am I doing at this table with these people, Lord? Like, you start to the self-doubt creeps in because it's just like, what am I doing here? So I love hearing that, like, somebody that I was super successful in this space, I did a different thing, and I was kind of like back to the underdog, and now I had to build myself back up. Like, you don't really hear people talk about that aspect of it. You just hear about the success, and maybe a little struggle, success. Like, it's nice to hear somebody kind of give that other perspective of starting again.
Absolutely. And this is why these conversations are so necessary. Like, having you here today, just like I said, my cup, I feel so full. Like, I asked God the other night, I was like, what did I do to deserve this full life? Mm-hmm. And that's what triggered is for me. It is a filling of my cup, and we just get to do it. We get to do it together, and we get to share with others so that their cup can be filled too. So I want to make sure, where can folks stay connected? Where can they find you? Like, all the things.
Oh, all the things. Yes, thank you for asking me that. So Quartz Wellness Collective is my company. Mm-hmm. So quartz, like the stone, wellnesscollective.com, but I also have QWC Well Zone, and QWC Well Zone is an online wellness portal where we have a 14 module well-being and life skills curriculum. It is for individuals, it's for businesses, but that when I talk about bringing well-being and advancement into underserved communities, I created this as a space to get some personal and professional development that's not unaffordable and that feels inclusive, that feels like we're here, that is diverse. So my collective brings a collective of wellness practitioners, coaches, and people who are focused on all things flourishing into this space. And so check out qwcwellzone.com. I'm the Flow Coach on Instagram, and quartzwellnesscollective.com. I'm doing all the things, more of the things to be doing, and just collaborating and being in spaces with folks like you guys. So invite me somewhere, y'all. I'm here. I'm ready. Where we going? I'm curious.
Exactly. Here for this. Make sure you stay connected. Follow her. Check out the programs that she's offering. Because I can tell you from this just being connected with her, like, you are going to grow as a result. And you're also going to learn compassion for yourself, because even in your quest for growth, having that compassion for yourself, knowing that you are enough, is a game changer. Yeah. You can stay connected with me everywhere on Beyonce's internet at Alicia Reese. Danny, where can we stay connected with you?
You can stay connected with me at Miss Danny Foster. You can also go to DannyFosterCoaching.com. You can stay connected with Triggered at Triggered AFPC on Instagram, Triggered AF on Facebook, and Triggered AF the podcast. Is it TriggeredAFpodcast.com? Yeah, let's forget that. And on there, you can join our email list. You can watch the videos. Please go to our YouTube and watch the videos as well. I've uploaded them, so you should go watch them. And we just thank you so much, Amber, for sharing with us. And for, like, I'm always really amazed that, like, the people that come on this podcast still, like, I know it's like we've had so many great people, but we'll get people, I'm like, really? They're going to come on here and talk to us? Okay, I'm here for this.
You guys have had some awesome guests.
Yeah. So it's like, thank you for joining the list of our guests and just for sharing with us and dropping all these gems, because I always just think about, I hope this podcast, the purpose of it is to kind of give these tools. We just hear so much about, like, oh, I vibe high and be this wonderful person, but it's like, how? Like, what are the steps to do that? So thank you for sharing, like, real actionable steps that people can take home and share with your mom, share with your sister, share with everybody so that they can do their healing and they can heal from some of these triggers. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.